In this video, I'm going to show you the quickest way to level up cooking in New World. The big challenge in this one is really what materials do you use and where do you get them from? Because the recipes that you're going to use are pretty straightforward and a little bit boring, but it will be the quickest way to level. But first, if you want to support the channel, then becoming a YouTube member is really the best way to do so. So first, let's look at what you will be crafting to get from 1 to 200. And it's the bog standard health meals. So as part of the tutorial, you'll basically craft 1 light ration. That'll get you to level 1. Then you craft 345 travel rations. That'll take you to level 50. Then you do 690 light meals to get you to level 100. Then you're going to need 988 satisfying meals to get to level 150. And then finally, you're going to need 1050 hearty meals to get to 200. But as I said, the main thing is what materials are you using to do those, right? So for these first 345 light rations, you're going to need some basic food. Now, I think this food is technically tier 2 rather than tier 1. I'm not sure what the rule is that says what you can and can't use, but the main ones you're going to want to use is very simple. You'll be looking at red meat, pork, corn, squash, and poultry. There's other things out there that you can farm, like strawberries, carrots, but the ones that I listed first are the ones that you're going to have easier access to. Red meat, for example, is going to come from killing wolves. Pork is going to come from killing boars. And you're going to do that a lot as you level, and if you're getting your skinning up, it makes sense as well. So for the first 345 meals, personally, I would just use red meat and pork, but you can use red meat and corn or red meat and squash, whatever you have access to, basically. If you're playing on legacy and you're leveling this up, then red meat and pork are probably the 2 cheapest options. On fresh though, everybody's going to be wanting everything. I think there'll be high demand for stuff like corn and squash and stuff like that. So it might actually be easier to get red meat and pork as well, but it's probably quicker to get squash and corn and that kind of stuff because you can just go to a farm and, well, literally farm it. And then to go from level 50 to level 100, you need a tier 3 food. And your options here are things like berries, barley, blueberries, potatoes, carrots. But really, I think the best, easiest option there is probably blueberries followed by berries. There's enough farming areas on the map for these 2 materials where the rest are a little bit more scarce than that. So when you come to craft this and you want to get from 50 to 100, you're going to need 690 berries, be them blue or not, and then a further 690 of either meat, pork, squash, poultry, whatever you can find basically, and then you need another set of that, so you need that times 2. So for example, 690 red meat, 690 pork, or 690 red meat, 690 corn. One of the best areas for farming for me is actually sort of near Amrine and Starstone. You can get blueberries there quite easily. And nearby, there's actually quite a bit of squash. There's also a farm relatively near Windswood where you can get corn. Corn's probably the easiest one to get out of squash and corn, but it may be overly farmed. So once you've got to 100, you need to go from 100 to 150, and then you're going to need a tier 4 food. And this is where things start drying up a little bit. The best ones are probably broccoli and barley, and in reality, broccoli is the more common one and will be the more easier one to get, even though it actually might be quite contested. Now, broccoli you can get just outside of Everfall. Weirdly, there's actually quite a good place that you can literally just go and walk and check every day. There's another farm above Everfall where it exists, and there's a farm near where the hermit used to be in the west of Windswood. And then in this case, you're going to need 988 broccolis. And then it's the same thing, except you need 3 sets of these. So you're going to need 988 red meat, 988 pork, and 988 corn. Or a combination. Do you know what I mean? There's not a set list here. It's not that you have to use corn. For example, when I was doing this on my server, on my legacy server, it was actually cheaper to buy fish fillets than it was to buy corn or squash or something like that. So I literally just used broccoli, red meat, pork, and firm fish fillets. However, on fresh, they might not be the cheapest option. I think red meat and pork will be pretty standard, right? It's just the rest that are a little bit more questionable. So once you've done that with 988 times, you're then going to move on to hearty meals, and you're going to need 1050 of these, and you're going to need a tier 5 food. Now, thankfully here, there's going to be one standout choice, and that is going to be pork belly. Now, that is different from pork, so you can use pork belly and pork, by the way. Pork belly is basically a rare mat. It's green, and you get it from skinning high-level boars. Get some skinning luck on, go murder them high-level boars, and you'll get your pork belly soon enough. The fact is, a lot of people kill boars for skinning and hide and stuff like that, that this ultimately ends up being the cheapest material, which in turn is because it's the easiest to get. Now, one thing you actually do need here in this one that's unlike the others is that you need seasoning as well. Now, the easiest one for this is probably honey. I mean, literally they give it away in some towns. Just make sure you're collecting that every single day in every town that it exists, and it'll start adding up. And obviously you can go out there and farm it from those honey trees. But the mats that you're going to need there are 1050 pork bellies, 1050 honey, and then again you need 3 sets of red meat, pork, poultry, corn, squash. Hell, at that point, blueberries might even be so cheap that they might be thrown into the mix, even though they're actually a tier 3 food. I don't want to give you a shopping list or say you must go and farm these, because they may be overly farmed on fresh. If you're on a server where somebody's farming corn all day, all night kind of thing, then maybe you should go and look at squash and broccoli and stuff like that. So you've got to pick and choose your battles a little bit there. Now, the best way to actually get the cooking clothes, I think at this point, is simply to go through the aptitude. On legacy, that's easier because you can just buy the materials. On fresh, that might not be the case and you might want to go and farm them. But I'm not going to touch on that here. I think aptitude is probably still going to be the best way to do it. It's worth noting that the clothing and the trophies, they don't give you better quality food in any way, shape or form. They actually just give you more food, which is quite important if you're going to be doing like a lot of 40 con food for like wars and stuff like that. So do keep in mind, if you're going that intense into cooking, then you're getting more stuff, and that can be really good bang for your buck kind of thing, because if you craft 10 and you get 20, that's obviously really good. Cooking, if we're honest, when it comes to the actual way that you level, hasn't really changed very much. What's important is just where you're going to get those ingredients. For any cooking ingredient where you want to find out where it is, just go and check New World map. Probably the easiest way to do it. Good luck cooking, and if you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, do consider becoming a YouTube member. It truly would help. Have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.